Having now gone through the wise people of the book of Proverbs, the examples of the prudent or the diligent or the disciplined, now we go through examples of the fools that show up in the book of Proverbs. The Proverbs is not just concerned with making you a wise person, it's also making sure that you're not a foolish person. Because at every point you are one or the other, you're binary, there's no in between. You are either being wise or you are being a fool. North American people don't really like that. We like to think that we can sort of detach from stuff. We like to say things like, I'm spiritual but not religious, or something like this would be an example from a religious context. It's just a false thing to say. You can't be spiritual but not religious. You are religious. To be religious is to believe that something gives you ultimate meaning in life, and you have something. You may not call it Christianity or Islam or Hinduism. You might just call it me, humanism, right? Materialism, atheism, whatever you want to call it. It's this thing that you believe, even though you haven't totally seen it or totally understand everything about it, that gives you ultimate meaning. We don't get to be detached from things like belief or religion or wisdom and foolishness. So every one of us is fitting into one of those two categories at all times. And therefore, having studied the wise people, we're going to look at the fools. The first fool that shows up in our commentary is the gullible person. And we all want to believe we're not gullible. We want to believe that we are discerning, we can take in the information, and we can make a wise and informed decision. And there's probably a certain extent to which we can do that. But the gullible person is the person who just believes something because it's been said. There's no part of them that says, I want to sift this through my already existing worldview. Now, we may think, okay, I do that already. And again, we might do that to some extent. But the point of seeing the fool here is to see how many times we don't. I just want you to think about the inputs that are coming into your life right now. Even the smallest inputs of little pings on your phone, tweets that you read, articles that you read, shows that you watch, whether they are Netflix shows where you binge a couple episodes or they're the news. Even if they're things that you would say, I don't agree with that, like on principle, the fact that those inputs are coming into your mind still affects you. You listen to these podcasts or read books about how people change their mind and kind of the psychology of that. It's really interesting how you can actually change a person's mind, not by giving them a logical argument that actually undermines their current worldview, but by simply blasting them again and again and again with the same idea. This is why the idea of propaganda works. Because propaganda is just saying the same thing over and over and over again without actually backing it up. So people start to believe it because, well, that's what's always being said by the majority of people. The evolutionists would like to say we're herd animals, and so we kind of try to stick with the herd. We who believe that God actually created us and gave us purpose would say we're sinful, and therefore we are corrupted and unable to make wise decisions, and so we are by nature foolish or sinful. So what this should ask us to do is look at all of our inputs and say, are these things healthy? Even if I know they're not healthy, should I still have them in my life? And I think one of the best places to start is with your media consumption. I'm on a screen looking at you and talking to you, hoping that you will eventually get off of screens. Not completely, but more than you are right now. Screens are a beautiful thing. God gave them to us. He made them useful. But if you would go into the average North American household today, you would see a family worshiping their TV. I mean, if you had aliens come from another planet and show up and they came into an American household, what would they see? They would see a family all gathered around a glowing box for an hour or 2 or 5 every day, listening to it speak at them. And those aliens would say, that must be their God. Because they listen to him. They listen to him speak. They do what he says. Is that true of you? Or do you listen to the true God? The true God who didn't give you the word in flashy blue light, but in analog. Because he didn't want you to be overwhelmed or overstimulated or coerced by the drug that is blue light into believing his word. He wanted you to actually dig in and get wisdom. See, the gullible person is the person who can't run the ideas that are coming in from around them through God's word. And so I would encourage you to be very thoughtful about every stimulus that you bring into your body. Realize how young these things are and how much effect they actually have on who you are, what you think, how you think of yourself. They're dangerous things. Doesn't mean they're not good things. But like any good thing, as soon as it becomes the ultimate thing, it becomes idolatry. So, don't be a gullible person. That's how to grow up.